Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we continue training and mentoring the Manchester University Wasp Team as we go up on the roof of a private residence to capture an invasive species here in upstate Indiana called European Paper Wasps, or Polistes dominula. This is a very important species now for venom immunotherapy patients around the world because so many people are exposed to their venom. The team did an excellent job using a combination of containers and nets to remove and capture the flying adult wasps and the entire nest of brood comb. Once the adult flying wasps are captured, we have to transfer them from the nets into containers so that they can then be frozen for venom immunotherapy. So we'll show you the whole process of how the team gets on the roof, does the job, does the containment and the netting, and then gets back down safely. The team has really developed an excellent skill set this season, and we've been very happy with their work. They're absolutely professional, and their safety record is outstanding. The next day, we moved on to a historic hotel in the downtown area, and they had asked us to remove multiple paper wasp nests that they had found all over their lower floor eaves and also up on the upper floor eaves on the roof. So we went out and found mostly Polistes dominula. These are the invasive European paper wasps that we have here in North America now, and their venom is very useful for venom immunotherapy as always, so we were happy to get up on the roof here. Even though it was a little bit difficult to do this job, we were able to take care of it and get it completed. As you can see here, there were some steep roof pitches and some very tight spaces to work on, so safety was very, very key to this job. We had to be very careful up there. We rigged up some custom gear like a long pole net, and being very careful with footing and looking out for trip hazards, which were pretty significant around this workspace, we were able to net the last of these nests up on the upper floor eaves. Once we had them in the nets, as always, we had to be very careful to get them contained into jars and separate the wasps from the nests when we could. And after several nettings, we were able to capture most of the flying adults up on the upper levels as well. Once we had them in the net, we got them into some jars for containment so we could get them down and have them frozen. We go over some safety protocols that we'll share with you on the rooftops, and then we'll take you back to the barn lab where we get these wasps separated from their nest by putting them to sleep temporarily with CO2 gas. This makes it relatively easy to separate the wasps from their nests so that the nests can be put into incubation habitats, and we can raise the pupae in those nests until they're adult wasps that can be collected for venom immunotherapy. As you see here, the wasps wake up from their little gas nap after only a few minutes, and then they can be flash frozen using dry ice, which is frozen CO2. It's the same gas that we exhale every time we breathe. It's not toxic, but it has a very low temperature, which helps us freeze these wasps at the very highest quality possible for venom immunotherapy. Then we're going to show you what we find inside these wasp nests, including nectar like you see here. It looks like honey because that's what it is essentially. It's dehydrated nectar that they collect, and they'll use that for carbohydrates. We also see a lot of eggs and larvae and pupae in this nest, which are the silk caps you see here. There was a lot of life left in all of these nests, and that's why we keep them for venom immunotherapy incubation. And the idea here is you separate the wasps from the nests, and you take the nests and you mount them inside habitats that can be maintained as more wasps pupate out. What we feed them is pollen cake, like you see here, the tan material inside the wasp habitat. Then we give them a little bit of sugar water for carbohydrates. And the wasp will eat the pollen cake, as you see here, for protein. We've been experimenting this year with pollen cake instead of live insects or any type of meat, and we'll give you a look at what those ongoing experiments look like. For now, let's take you back to July 30th and 31st of 2025, and we'll show you both jobs. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. If you enjoy the content you find on our channel, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Enjoy the show. Got a dominula nest up here, so we'll definitely take this. Let me get the net in some containers. With Coco and Colleen from the Manchester University Wasp Team, and we've been asked to go up on a ladder up on a roof and remove a Polistes dominula nest. You can see it there in the corner of the window. It's a very active nest with several adults on it. So we're going to use the net to contain some of those adults, and we're going to use a container that we brought with us to contain the nest. That's the plan. Colleen, thankfully, is here to help us stabilize the ladder, and Coco and I are going to climb up. So I think I'll have Coco go second. I'll go first so I can help you get up. Does that sound good? All right, here we go. I'll have you guys hand me the gear once we're up there. All right, this pro team is hooking us up with safety. Okay, I'll take the net. And this is just going to be our scraper tool. So Coco, you can hold on to this for stability and this, but don't pull it off. Just you can use downward motion only. Nice and slow, take your time. Now, roof safety, stay low on the roof. So if you ever fall, you don't fall far toward the edge. You stay low and you move up. All right, so what we see here on the right corner is dominula. Polistes dominula, European Paper Wasp. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that trowel to knock the nest quickly down into this container. And while we're doing that, hold the net out, and hopefully some of them will fly into the net that we missed. And then we'll net the rest over the next few minutes. Okay. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right, let's do it. So we're going to take these out. Those will be your tools. I think what I'll do is have you net like this.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to have you. That side's good. Let's get rid of this so we can have room to work. All right, stay back a little bit for now. We don't want to spook them. This looks like dung. This is all dung. Don't step in that.
Yeah.
That looks like maybe raccoon dung or some type of rodent, so stay out of that. Okay?
Yeah.
We might have an issue with something coming up here. All right, so we got a few of them in there with it. So now we're going to net them. Go ahead and start netting. There you go. Good. Great. Turn it. You got them all. Well done. Piece of cake,
easy,
huh?
yeah.
Not bad. Well done. That's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Man, you are like the net ninja now. Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. So now we're going to contain them. Let's go down. We'll keep that contained, and we'll get them into a container on the ground. Well, actually, you know what? Stay where you are. It'd probably be easier just to do it up here. I'm going to bring another container up.
Okay.
You got all four of them in there?
1, 2, 3. Is the fourth one? Oh, yes, they are.
All four?
There's all four in there.
That's perfect. I want them to climb up a little bit while we slip this on the bottom. How many we got? Is that 4?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Got him.
Okay, so let's have you climb down very carefully, and then I'll hand the gear to you.
Okay.
You can hand that right down to Colleen before you move. So really slow, and turn around to face me as you're going down, holding on to everything. So hand that down first, and I'll hand these to you when you're down. So real slow and easy, nothing quick. All right, good job. Here's the glass. I'll toss the plastic down to Colleen. You ready? Great job, guys. Very well done. Got them all. Now I'm going to take one more look at the nest, and I'll be right back. Okay. All right, while we're here at the same property, there's a paper wasp nest up in the corner. So we're going to go ahead and snag that one and get it down for the homeowner while we're here. That's native, so go ahead and knock it down just since we're here. This is a native paper wasp nest, so we don't collect them for venom immunotherapy, but we can collect them just to pupate them out. And the adult wasps, we're going to let them live up there. That's just fine, because most of the pupating wasps will have contained. And we'll take this nest back and we'll relocate it. Let's see what's in it. One larva fell out of it, but there's larvae, so it's alive. See?
Yeah.
Can you see them in there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're definitely in there. So I'll take them back, and they'll either be food for other wasps, or we can contain them and pupate them out. All right, is there anything else on this property? All right, let's go. Once we finished this property, the neighbors down the block reported some wasps in their shed, so we collected another dominula nest from that location. We then moved on to another part of the block where they had reported some honeybees in a tree. And sure enough, there was a feral colony of bees inside a hollow part of this tree. We found an entrance several feet up the tree, and then we also found an entrance down at the base of the tree. This looked like a huge hollow tree with a very large active honeybee colony in it. They were okay leaving the bees where they were, so we did not intervene with that. A day or two later, on July 31st of 2025, we went out to a historic hotel in town that had reported multiple wasp nests throughout the eaves all around the building. Most of the nests we found were like these, European Paper Wasps, an invasive species that we use for venom immunotherapy, and they also had some native paper wasps. Another nest way up there, but it's looks to be metricus, which are beneficial natives. We'll leave them alone because they're high enough they won't bother anybody. So we're at a historic hotel today in town, and they have dominula nests, Polistes dominula, that's invasive paper wasps, along the outside of their eaves here and also up on the second and third levels. So we'll be doing some ground ladder work today, and then we'll be moving up onto the roof to remove some of these. But they're fairly active and fairly good size. Yes. There's one of them there. So we're just going to take these and we'll net whatever we don't catch immediately when we remove the nest. And we'll be taking the nest to incubate them back at the barn lab today. Here's the population of the first nest, and here's the nest itself. So far so good. We got most of them in one shot there. Those that we didn't get will net here in a minute when we come back. Good sized nest with some good pupae still in it. So we'll be able to incubate a number of pupae from here. There's also some larvae left in it. And if we can get them to feed on pollen cake, they may actually be able to raise that larva through pupation while in captivity. This is a good mature dominula nest. Excellent for venom immunotherapy. Still some pupae left in the nest. Still some larvae in there. So we can pupate out the rest of that later. but good populations. A lot of males this time of year, but we can sort those out. And only the females will be useful for venom immunotherapy. So we finished the lower level inspection, removed about 3 or 4 Polistes dominula nests and collected them for VIT. Now we're gonna go up on the roof here and inspect the upper level of the roof section and these eaves along the second story. Up here we have a fairly large eaves structure all the way around the building, and it would generally attract a lot of wasps. So we'll check this level next. In the window frames here, we have some old nests. This one is newer. It's a Polistes metricus or fuscatus, and it's active. So this should be removed because it could get into the interior space. But we need to get this screen out of here. I'm not sure that's doable. So most likely that one's gonna have to stay for now, but we'll make the client aware of it. Looks like mostly defunct nest in the corner here, but we'll pull them. So we're just knocking them down as we see them with a tool pole. Nice view up here. You see a lot of the town from over here. Gotta be careful though. Steep pitch roof just below here. This one, the white one, is relatively flat, but it's pretty steep below that. Good fall risk if you're not careful. So what we have here is another paper wasp nest. So we're gonna knock that one and retrieve it. It looks like an old nest from a previous season. So you see how this one's all hatched out. There's a few white caps on there that never made it out of pupation, but otherwise it's dead. Higher up, not much else here. Here we have another paper wasp nest in the corner. So we're going to remove that one. Looks like this one was not active. But up above, there's a much larger one right up here. We're going to take that one next. This one's an active dominula nest. So we're going to knock it down, but we don't have a good way to get up at this level safely. So we'll have to net them instead of attempting to capture them all at once, which would be preferable. But in a situation like this, with multiple levels of dangerous roof, that is not smart to try to get a ladder up this way. So what we're going to do is just knock it with a pole into a container or a net and go from there. It's a good nest with a good population on it, so we'll try to net as many as we can get. Watching for trip hazards on this roof. All right, let's do this with a net. So as you can see here, it's a pretty active nest, large population, still a lot of pupae on it. So what we're going to do is transfer it. So we contain the nest here. Still a number of pupae that will probably still be viable. Not much else in there. Mostly this nest is hatched out for the season. Now we need to deal with getting the wasps out of the net and into a plastic container. So here we have the few that were netted along with the nest. And now we gotta go back up and net the rest to whatever we can reach. So we rigged up a net on a pole, or an extendable tool pole. And what we're gonna do is extend it way up to this peak at the roof line here and scare up some of those dominula and get them moving so we can net them. We've got a few here in the net so far, and just by banging on the wall you can get them to disengage from the wall and get them out flying, and that's where you can net them up. So we've got a few more netted here. It's about the best we can do with limited space and safety risk considered. So we're gonna have to call it here for today on this nest. Let's get these bagged up. Here's the next group contained in a jar. So there's the next batch. Another 4 or 5 of them in there. Let's see if anybody returns to the roof up above us. There's another one up there on the eaves. It looks like this one may not be active. It's a little hard to tell from here. That's it for today's adventures. We are done with the roof work here. We've cleared as many as we could reach from these eaves. And now we're heading out. Basics of roof work. Very slow. Everything you do has to be slow and methodical. It's a long way down if you happen to make a mistake. So make sure you're working very slow. Secondly, any ladders you have, double check that they're in good shape. You don't need a ladder accident. Third, when it comes to safety on roofs, you want to make sure you're wearing shoes that allow you decent traction on a rooftop, because if you don't have that, slipping is quite easy. Here are the dominula nests and the individual wasps we netted from the vintage hotel in town. Quite a number of nests and wasps today. Some of these are still active enough to pupate out some more in captivity. And they look good and healthy. So a lot of these will be very good for venom immunotherapy. Polistes dominula, of course, always sought after globally now because they're such an invasive species that a lot of people around the world are exposed to their venom. So they're very much needed for venom immunotherapy purposes. So it'll be good to add these to the collection that we can freeze. And that's the process we're going to go through now. So we ended up with 4 dominula nests. One is already separated from the wasps. They're over here in separate containers. The others need to be separated from their nest. So what we're going to do is knock them out with CO2 gas, which is food grade CO2. And we're going to put them asleep for a few minutes by adding gas to their container so that the gas displaces the oxygen and knocks them out. And we'll show you what that process looks like here. As you see here, it only takes a moment to knock them out cold. I'm going to do the same to each of these. Not asleep very long, so we have to do this very quickly. We're just separating the nests from the wasps while they're asleep. Okay, so there's some nests that we can incubate if there's any pupae left in them. Not many, probably, but a few. And we'll take our wasps and we'll contain them all in one container. knock out the rest of them and add them to the same container. So we've got them all consolidated now into one container as they wake up here. A couple of them are already awake. The rest are on their way. There are some males in here, like this guy right here. Here's another male. They're curious what's going on here. Males are not useful for venom immunotherapy just because they don't have venom. They have no stinger, no venom sac. But they are useful for breeding, so we'll keep them maybe for that. And let them breed some of the females if we can get that going. But they have curled antennas. That's how you can tell they're males. You see how they look like little canes or candy canes. The reason they curl is because when they mate with the females, they wrap their antennas around the female's antennas to keep her in place while they're mating. And that's the reason for that biologically. And you can tell they're males because they have longer yellow faces. They have an extra segment on their abdomen here. Oop, that one's going to the bathroom, it appears. So that's what it looks like when a wasp goes to the bathroom, a male wasp. That was not venom because they don't have venom. They're not useful for venom immunotherapy because they have no venom sac. So if you compare their face, the yellow face that you see here, if you compare that to the female, you'll notice that the male has yellow mandibles and more yellow on his face, whereas if we look at a female here, you see how her mandibles are black. Those are the pinchers, the mouth parts, and she has much less yellow on her face and more black on her face. Here's another male. You see the yellow mandibles and the curled antennas. And if we look at a female here, you'll see black mandibles and straighter antennas and a little bit of yellow and black mixed on the face, but not an entirely yellow face like the males have. So they're all starting to wake up here after their little gas nap. Pretty soon we'll put them in dry ice and freeze them. But for now, they're interesting to look at. Here we have another nest. This one also came from the hotel. Nice active population on it. We're gonna knock them out next. We didn't get to add them to this yet, but we'll do that now. There's a few pupae in here that might come out in captivity. So there's our nests. We have a few that have a few pupae left, but they're mostly hatched out, and I don't see any larvae left in most of them. So let's get our next batch of wasps collected here. So we're going to show you a real-time wake up. After they get knocked out by gas, let's see how long it takes them to wake up. We're about a minute, maybe 2 minutes in so far. starting to come around. Let's transfer them now into another container just to get them ready. Right around 3 minutes now. So as you can see in this footage, CO2 gas does not harm the wasps in any way. It simply knocks them out. It deprives them of oxygen long enough to knock them out for just a few minutes, and they come right back to full energy within about 5 minutes. And the reason we're showing you this is because we don't want people to believe that we're somehow damaging the wasps. All they are being exposed to is CO2 gas. That's the same thing we exhale every time we breathe. All right, they're starting to climb now, so we're going to close them up. We'll continue to observe them. See now one of them is wide awake trying to find a way out. Meanwhile, our second batch that we had is all awake again. We're at about 5 minutes or so, give or take. All right, here's all the dominula we captured from the hotel today. And we're going to go ahead and get them all frozen now in the dry ice. So we just transferred some of the ice into this bucket, make room for the containers. So we've got both containers completely covered in ice. And we're going to add some insulation and let them freeze. Once they're solidly frozen, we'll put them into their own baggie, dated and marked with the species. So now that our dominula specimens are freezing, while they freeze, we're going to inspect the nest to see if there's any active larvae or eggs or what's left in these. As you can see, they did put new eggs in most of these cells. So they were going to have another round of larvae. There's also some nectar in here. That's what you see here. Looks like honey. And this is wasp honey, basically. It's nectar that they've dehydrated in the nest and they use for energy. So they were well on their way to another round of life in this nest. Unfortunately, we probably can't save the eggs or the 1 or 2 larvae that are still here. But the pupae, as they come out, the white silk caps you see are pupae, pupating wasps. If any of them are still alive, hopefully we can get them to hatch out here in captivity and collect them for venom immunotherapy. We're assuming that this material here is some type of dehydrated nectar, the white material you see here. Yeah, quite a bit of eggs all the way through here in this one. Let's take a look at the others. A lot of life left in here. Immature larvae, pupae, eggs, mature larvae. So these nests, we're going to have another round of life for sure. Same with the third nest. Good number of pupae, larvae, eggs. Some nectar. This one got damaged during collection, unfortunately. We only have part of it, and the part we did retrieve is empty. There's nothing left in this one at all. We are going to mount all of these nests onto a piece of wood or a couple pieces of wood and get them set up in a habitat, hanging upside down like they might in nature, and that way they can begin to develop in captivity. We just take a glue gun and we put a little bit of glue right on the back of the nest, wherever it might touch the surface of the wood. These three are all viable, and now they can hang from a habitat upside down-ish, or at least at an angle, but not upright. That's not ideal. They can still hatch out just fine upright in our experience, but it's better for development to hang them the way they would in nature. So we've added pollen cake here and over here. So that way, if they need protein and they look around, they should be able to find some. In this plastic dish, we're just going to put tap water. This is an old sparkling water bottle, but we just refill it with tap. And we use this for creating sugar water inside the habitat. So they don't need a lot. Just a little bit of water here is good enough. And we can refill that as needed. And we're going to add some sugar to it. So we just have a spoonful of sugar here. We're just going to drop that in the water and let it dissolve into a little sugar water for them. So when they begin to pupate out, they'll have something to eat. So the sugar water stands in for nectar, and the pollen cake stands in for protein, insect protein. They would normally hunt insects in the wild, so whenever they pupate out, they should gravitate right toward this food because it's the only food they will ever know. All frozen solid. This nest is so filled with eggs, even though there's no pupae and really not much going on for larvae, maybe one pupae left. but the eggs are viable, and the nectar is going to be good carbohydrates. So we're going to take this one and we're going to go ahead and put it in with the other dominula that have already hatched out. So we're going to take this nest with only eggs on it, and we're just going to set it right in here. Hopefully nobody will fly out while we do this. There we go. That way, if they decide they would like to explore that nest or raise these eggs or eat the eggs for protein, whatever they want to do, the nest will be available to them. So as you can see here, we put in various forms of protein for these wasps to discover. One was a tobacco worm or tomato worm that we had pulled out of the garden. They never did recognize that as food. The other was pollen cake, which you see here. They ate that quickly, the protein. Here you can see how the adult wasps have been feeding on the pollen cake with no problem at all. And then we put the empty nest that had only eggs in it to see if they would eat those for protein. We'll keep these experiments going and we'll let you know how it goes.